All right, welcome to today's discussion on flight planning. Today we're going to cover navigation and flight planning. What it is the process of planning and executing cross-country flights greater than 50 nautical mile distance, procedures for different situations that may arise during flight. The content, we're going to cover some terms, aeronautical charts, navigation, pre-flight weather check, planning a flight, diverting to an alternate, and lost procedures. Why do we care? Because this is an integral part to flying. Safely flying from point to point. We want to know how much time we're going to be in the air, how much fuel we're going to need. We're going to navigate so we don't get lost, and then make flight planning easier and more organized. If you have any questions throughout, just go ahead and ask them. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. And if you are watching this on YouTube, just go ahead and drop them in the comments or DM me directly, and I'll make sure to answer your questions. So let's start with some aeronautical charts. These are just giant maps, essentially, and they come in different flavors. Now, there's the sectional chart. This is the most common one that we use, and it's a scale of 1 to 500,000. So each chart is going to have a different scale because they're going to be at different zoom levels, essentially. The terminal chart is helpful in Class B airspace, so it's more detailed, more zoomed-in version of the sectional chart. There's the World Aeronautical Chart. These are a bit bigger. 1 to a million scale, revised every 2 years. And then you always want to verify that your charts are current. And you can check that by looking at the front of your chart to see when it expires. Also, you want to check your NOTAMs as you're part of your pre-flight planning. We covered that last week. Northwest Craft, our checklist here, NOTAMs is the very first thing you want to check. And so verify that there are no NOTAMs, or if there are, that you don't need to worry about them. Okay, let's talk about navigation. There are different types of navigation that we will use as pilots. Pilotage is one of my favorites because it's literally just looking out of the aircraft and comparing to your map, to your chart. It's navigation by reference to landmarks or checkpoints on the ground. So you're going to be looking at lakes, rivers, mountains, roads, cities. Basically, anything that you can see with your eyes and you can double check on the map, that's pilotage. Now, dead reckoning, this is actually really cool. I like to call this navigating by math. Basically, you use your math skills to figure out how much time you're going to take to climb up to altitude, how long it's going to take you to get from point to point, what airspeed you're going to be flying at, what your ground speed is going to be, your wind correction angle, fuel burn, all that stuff. Do all the math that nerds like me like to do, and then you fly like that. And that's dead reckoning. And of course, you want to do both of these at the same time to back each other up. Then there's radio navigation by which a predetermined flight path is followed. So GPS, VOR, NDB. GPS, obviously, you guys are probably familiar with this with your car GPS systems. It's a satellite-based navigation system where we use multiple satellites and ground stations to navigate. Now, VOR, I think, is actually a really cool system. We've covered this in a previous discussion, but VORs are essentially ground stations that send out these straight lines called radials, and we ride those radials in or out of the station. Really cool. We'll do a whole other discussion on VORs later on. I love talking about them. And then NDB stands for non-directional beacon. These aren't really used much anymore, but we can cover them if you want later on down the road. Okay. Now, ideally, you should be doing all of these at the same time. Look outside, check against your map, do some math, make sure your calculations are accurate, use your VORs, use your GPS, and basically have redundant systems so you don't get lost. Now, we talked about this before, your Northwest Craft checklist. The second item in that NWK-RAFT is your weather check. And so you do want to get a good weather brief before you go. And you want to make a good go or no-go decision. It's a good idea. So we know the bare minimum, right? The VFR weather minimums. You've got 3152 in most airspace, like 1 mile clear of clouds in Class Golf. I mean, there's some pretty low weather minimums out there for VFR flight. Now, you as a good pilot are going to set your own personal minimums so you don't get yourself, into trouble. And so set your limits, write them down so you don't have to be like, this is kind of okay. And then make your no-go decisions based on that. Now, this is a continual process. You shouldn't just be saying, all right, well, I made the decision to go, so I'm going to go regardless of what happens. If all of a sudden there's a hurricane, or a thunderstorm or a tornado or something, you can turn around and, divert to an alternate or something. So it is a continual decision-making process. Now let's talk about how we plan a flight. We want to use a flight log. This is essentially a kind of like an Excel spreadsheet, point to point, on how you get to each checkpoint. Most people, when they start flight planning, they just go, all right, I'm going to depart in this airport, and I'm going to go to this airport, and I'm just going to go a straight line, bam, done. And they don't really take into account the terrain, the different categories of airspace. So that's something we always want to think about. Is this straight line really the best route to take? And oftentimes it's not. What we want to do is actually, if there are airports or landmarks around, we might actually plan a flight to zigzag between these points, because it'll be easier for us to navigate, or we'll be pointed directly at an alternate in case we need to divert. It'll make it easier for us. Now, in this flight log, and we'll cover how to do this later on, we do all the calculations that we need. So we're going to use our altitude, wind direction, airspeed and ground speed to figure out what headings and what altitudes we want to fly. And we're going to keep a log of that and use that to navigate. Now, on the chart itself, we actually want to draw all these legs and actually figure out what the true course is. Account for the wind direction or the wind drift. Account for the magnetic variation of, from true north and magnetic north, right? And then, and then keep track of that. And then as you're flying, note how close you are to your calculations to see if you're, how far off your calculations are to what, is actually happening. Now, filing a flight plan is always a good idea, but in VFR world, it is not required. There are a couple different places where you can file. 1-800-Weather Brief is a good one. You can call them up or go online and file one. Go to ForeFlight, Garmin Pilot, your electronic flight bag is a great place to file it. Wherever you're comfortable filing your flight plan is fine. Again, not required in VFR, but it is a good insurance policy, because if you don't check in, or if you don't close your flight plan, they're going to send out search and rescue teams to find you. And that's always nice, right? Now, if you're flying international, you do need to file a flight plan, and needs to go follow the ICAO flight plan standard. And don't forget to close your flight plan, because you might, everything might be fine. You might be chilling at home in bed, and all of a sudden you get a call from search and rescue and they're looking for you. So don't forget to close your flight plans. Now let's talk about diverting to an alternate. One of the items that we have to include in our flight plan is an alternate. And when I say in our flight plan, in our own, we don't have to file it. We just have to have a list of things that we've already checked. I always like to have 2 or 3 alternates just in case. Basically, you want to know where you're going to go if you lose an engine, or if all of a sudden the weather turns bad. And the way you go about it, when you first realize you need to go to an alternate, you don't want to spend a lot of time calculating exactly how much fuel you're going to take, how long it's going to take to get there, your exact heading. Just point your nose at the alternate in general, where you're going to go, and then start working, through the process. So yeah, use rule of thumb shortcuts to divert, and then fine tune those calculations as you go. A really useful tool you have inside the aircraft is your GPS. If you just tap the nearest function, you can find the nearest airports around you, and just file through them, find the one that you want, and hit direct to. Not all aircraft have this, but if you do, it's always a good idea to understand how to use your GPS system effectively. Now, you want to find your position on the chart, divert immediately. Like I said, just point your nose in the direction that you want to go rather than your original intended destination. On your flight plan log, note the time, pick an altitude, keep in mind that there will be different terrain from your initial heading to your alternate. Pick a good altitude, and you can use, your winds aloft. If you really want to get nitpicky about it, you can figure out the exact altitude that's going to give you the best performance. Honestly, this would be low on my priorities, honestly. and then you can determine how much time it's going to take and fuel required. Of course, this isn't a huge deal on short cross countries like 50 nautical miles, but when you're going out to do your long cross country like 300, 400 nautical miles, yeah, and you're out in the desert, yeah, it's gonna come into play. You want to make sure that you have enough fuel to get to your alternate. And I remember when I was doing my cross country down to I always call it Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Roseburg Airport. That thing was long, and I took a 150. Oh my gosh, that was rough. And I had a headwind the entire time, so it ended up being like a 7.5 hour flight. And the whole time I was like recalculating like my ground speed, how long it was going to take me to get there. Was I going to have enough fuel to get there? It was such a pain in the butt. But it was a fun flight, and I learned a lot. So anyways, the point is, rule of thumb calculations are your best way to go. And as always, aviate, navigate, communicate in that order. Fly the plane. Don't forget to stabilize the aircraft in an attempt to navigate and communicate. So fly the plane, get it trimmed off, hands-off flight, figure out where you are, where you're going, if you have enough fuel to get there, and then announce your intentions with ATC or the control tower, whoever you're talking to. Bam. Cool. Now, what happens if you get lost? Well, it happens, just be honest with yourself. If you're like, you know what, I think I might be lost, it's okay to admit that. Of course, the first thing you want to do is make a good flight plan so you don't get lost. Plan ahead, use multiple sources of navigation. Like we said, pilotage, dead reckoning, radio navigation, flight following. Use your tools so you don't get lost. That's the best way to go. But if you get lost, don't panic. Here are the 5 C's of your lost procedure. Climb. Get some altitude. Lean your mix. You can see more, and it improves radio reception. Communicate. Talk to ATC. Let them know, hey, I think I'm lost. Hey, this is 243 Echo. I think I'm lost. 121.5 your emergency frequency. Confess. This is the big one. Confess to yourself and confess to ATC. I think I'm lost. Comply. Follow their instructions, because you've got ADS-B out and you've got radar. They can find you and they be like, oh, hey, I know exactly where you are. Turn right heading, 090, whatever. Follow their instructions. They're going to help you out. And then if you need to conserve, reduce your power, reduce your airspeed. In the same vein as climb, get up to altitude, reduce your power, lean your mix, and then you can conserve your fuel. Now, here are some additional considerations. Check your heading indicator against your compass for errors. Remember that your heading indicator is a gyroscopic instrument. It's driven by your vacuum system. So if your vacuum system goes down, or if you haven't adjusted your gyroscope in like half an hour, there's a good chance it has drifted off and is not aligned with your magnetic compass. So check that and see if that might be the problem. If you notice that both your attitude indicator and your gyro or your heading indicator are out of whack, then your vacuum system's kaput. So use your compass instead. Now, you can use VOR stations, and I think we've talked about it in the past. If you've got one VOR here, another VOR here, you can get a back course from both of them, and you can find your where you are by getting back at, or like you can get radials from both VOR stations to figure out where you are. You can draw them on the map. Again, this is if you don't have GPS and you're like using old school techniques like I do back in World War II. I think they're cool. So you can use that, use NavAids, GPS, and then watch for notable features on the ground like water towers, rivers. A lot of airports will have the name of their city or the name of the airport like written near or on the runway. So you can look for that. Or not on the runway, on the taxiways or whatever. So that's something else you can look for. So that's lost procedures. Okay, so to recap, we covered different sectional charts or different navigational charts that you might see. They are different sizes. We've also covered the different types of navigation: pilotage, dead reckoning, radio navigation, VOR, flight following. Actually, we might not have covered flight following enough. Flight following is if you are flying VFR and you are in Class Echo airspace, you don't need to talk to anybody. But if you want to have an extra extra pair of eyes watching you, you can call up like Seattle Approach or Whidbey Approach or Seattle Center. You can call them up and request something called flight following, and they will find you on their radar scope, give you a discrete squawk code, and they'll just keep an eye on you just to help you out in case you need some help. Or if you, they'll also give you traffic notifications, and they might also give you like different altimeter settings. Anyways, the point is flight following is really cool and it's free. So that and flight plans, filing a flight plan are great tools to help you avoid getting lost and to get you instant help if you go down. We also covered diverting tool and alternate and loss procedures. Yeah. Okay. So what are your questions? And if there are no questions, no worries. I can just doodle. Cool. If there are no questions, did anybody make a flight plan and feels like sharing? It'd be really funny if this wasn't actually transmitting.
Yeah, I made a flight plan.
Nice. All right, cool. I will stop sharing my screen and then you can share yours.
I don't know why there's two lines right now. What is going on? Oh. Okay, I don't know what's going on here with this whole. Can you see this new screen that I just pulled up? No, you can't. Okay, well. Why did it?
I wonder if you eliminate that F, the foxtrot you have on your plan there, if you hit backspace, maybe that might help. I don't know. Are you trying to do like a cross-country flight like that?
No, I'm trying to get like 100 miles. I don't know why it looks
Yeah,
like I took a bunch of screenshots, but I'm trying to get like the screenshots.
Yeah.
That would be ideal, but now I'm
like circumnavigate.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I mean that'd be a fun flight. I don't know if we can make it in the Cessna.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's the route I'm trying to take. So should I just go through the northwest craft?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. So I'm gonna be flying from Dixon Municipal in Tennessee down to Grenada Municipal in Mississippi. So for NOTAMs, they're both untowered airports. And then the only real NOTAMs were there's like a tower that's 15.5 meters high at Dixon Municipal. And then there were a couple other towers, but the other ones were super low. Or like this is the highest one by far. So weather-wise, according to the METAR, there's going to be no gust of wind. And then the wind's going to be coming in at 260 degrees at 4 knots, I believe. Or actually, can I ask you a question about the METAR?
Send it.
So when it gives you the wind thing, the wind it gave me was 26004 knots. So the wind's coming in at 260 degrees, and then is it coming in at 4 knots, or is that 4 knots of crosswind?
That's 260 at 4 knots. So if you were to put your face on a heading of 260, you get a face full of wind at 4 knots.
Okay, yeah. So the wind's coming in at, like, I guess it's blowing from the northwest. The visibility is 9 statute miles, or is it square miles or statute miles? Sorry.
Statute miles.
Okay, statute miles, and the weather is clear. And the altimeter setting is 29.98. Yeah.
Inches of mercury?
Yeah, inches of mercury, sorry. There are no known delays. So for the runways, okay, I wish I could share my screen, but basically, or I wish I could share my screenshots, but they're both pretty simple. So the one in Dixon it's just like, it was only one runway, and it goes just from north to south. So I'll be taking off on runway 35. So I'll be taking off into the wind. And then Granada Municipal, there's 2 runways and they're kind of in a cross shape, but one's really short. So the other runway I'll be flying in on runway 31, which will be going into the wind on the longest runway. Alternates, so let's see if I can find it. I think it's this one right here. Yeah, Beach River, regional, and then New Albany, which should be, okay, it's right there. Okay, fuel. So I should need 18.4 gallons to go there and then have 45 minutes of extra time in the air. So I'm going to try and go for 20 gallons, and that's also 3 gallons of taxing fuel. And then, let's see, am I missing anything?
Did you do any calculations for takeoff distance or landing distance?
I don't think, I just like it was just like more than enough, kind of. I don't think I did like a precise calculation now.
Cool. Yeah, we can cover how to do that later on. It's always good to show your DPE that you know how to do it, just in case.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you mind if we scroll up to your departure point?
Sure. I do know that the Dixon runway was 500 feet or 5,000 feet, and the Granada one is 7,000 feet.
Yeah, like you said, probably more than enough, but it's always a good idea just to do it. And it's good to show your DPE.
Okay.
You know how to do it. So let's talk about what kind of. So you said it's a non-towered airport. How do you know that?
Because I went into the. Do you want me to go into it? But I just clicked on Dixon Municipal, and then it was just in the like description of it.
Cool. Is there an easier way to see it at a glance?
I'm sure there's a symbol.
And anybody can answer this, by the way.
I'm forgetting the symbol, I guess. I'm sure there's one.
Sure. Yeah, no worries. It's actually the color of the airfield.
Oh,
magenta.
okay.
A magenta airfield like
Yeah.
that tells you that it's a non-towered field.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I'm just going to ask you questions, and if you don't know, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
All right, so talk me through your, and if you haven't covered this, you can just tell me, look, I don't know, and it's not a big deal. What would you listen to? What radio frequencies would you listen to, and would you talk on before and as you depart?
Or I would listen to the weather station, which should be at Dixon it should be 306.5. And then the radio frequency that all the other pilots are going to be talking on at Dixon will be 123.875. And then
a slight correction there. It looks just real quick. Yeah, so the AWOS there,
yeah.
The Automatic Weather Observation System, is on 123.875. So that would be the weather. And then the C, see the little magenta C letter Charlie, 122.8. That tells you the Common Traffic Advisory frequency. And that's the frequency pilots are going to be talking on to advise other pilots of what their intentions are.
That correction. So what is the ATTIS? Sorry.
The ATIS?
Yeah, ATIS. That's what my 300 number was. I thought that was the weather one.
Yeah, 8 it. Yeah, I'm not sure where you get a 300 number from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from. Sorry.
Well, I guess. Okay, I'll just.
I mean, maybe if you show me your if we show me the screenshots later on, we might be able to see it. So continue on. What category of airspace are you departing from?
Is it Class C?
Let's scroll in a bit more so we can look at it.
Yeah. What is going?
So keep it right here and shift right just a hair so we can see Nashville International on the right.
I shouldn't be in it.
So Nashville, let's take a look at a couple of let's I just want to point out some differences here. So first of all, Nashville International, that's fun to say, is a blue airport, and so that tells us that it has a control tower. compared to Dixon, which is magenta, which doesn't have
Right.
a control tower. Now, the solid magenta circle surrounding Nashville, that tells us that's Charlie. Now, if we go back to Dixon, we do have a magenta ring around us, but it's not the same as the solid one.
Yeah.
Make sense? So that tells us that the we're actually in class Golf airspace on the surface up to 700 feet. At 700 feet above the surface, or it looks like what 1,592 feet MSL, then it turns into class Echo airspace. So on the ground we're in Golf, in the pattern we're in Echo, and as we depart, that magenta ring will still be in Echo, depending on what altitude we're flying at. Cool. Do you mind if we scroll along your flight path a little bit more to see what else we can, what else I can bug you about? Cool. Right there. You see that solid line with like the hash marks on it? Further south.
This?
Further south. Like, see where Hassel Field is? Yeah. What is that?
I don't know. I just noticing that for the first time, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. No worries. So look at where your line intersects Columbus 4 MOA.
Columbus 4 MOA.
It's like just to the left of Savannah, Hardin County.
Yeah.
To the south of Robert Sibley. Yeah. So it says Columbus 4 MOA. That means that it's a military operational area.
Oh, gosh.
And that means that there is likely some military activity there. So let me ask you this. Do you think VFR pilots are allowed to fly through there?
I'm pretty sure, yes, if they have permission. But you have to...
Yeah, absolutely. So MOAs are actually designed to separate IFR traffic from military activity. So VFR pilots are totally allowed to fly through MOAs. The only thing we want to do is just confirm that it's not active. And usually in the legend of the chart, there's a radio frequency we can check in, or we can see who owns that airspace, and they'll tell you when it's active and when it's not active. But the short answer is, yeah, you're absolutely allowed to fly through there. So no worries. We're still good to go. All right, let's keep flying. Let's keep going through our flight further southwest.
How would I know which radio frequency it is to like communicate with these people in this area?
Sure. If you go to on the top right, so on a paper chart, it's super easy. It's just in the legend. But because we're using SkyVector, it's going to be a little weird. So go to Memphis. See the top right? There's a button that says Memphis.
Right.
Yeah, try that. Now scroll out a little bit, and there should be a legend. So we've converted this to like a paper chart, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, keep scrolling out. And somewhere in the margins, there will be, there it is. On the bottom left, see that? Like there's like a white area. It looks like a big map, essentially. Come left. Yeah. If you keep going down there, there should be a list of MOAs and special use airspace that you can figure out. So keep going, keep scrolling in.
MOA name. Oh, I see.
There we go. And let's see, where is it?
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? I can't remember. Columbus or something? Columbus 4. Yeah, Columbus 4. So let's find Columbus 4. And it goes up to, looks like 10,000 feet. And its time of use is there. And it looks like Memphis Center owns it.
Yeah.
Is that right? If you could scroll in a little bit more, I might be able to see it.
Yeah. But they don't have a frequency
there you go.
next to it for some reason.
Yeah, so that's... Yeah. 126.1, I think, is probably it. If you look down, Memphis Center, there's a couple more further down the row. I would contact them, and they might, if it's not right, then they'll just tell you where to go. Yeah, so that's how you confirm if it's active.
Nice.
Awesome. Cool. Let's keep going and see what else we can do.
Let's see. How do I get back to my old?
If you go to World VFR, it'll revert back to the way we had it before. Right. Like up, that button. Bam.
All right.
And if you play with those buttons, you can actually see like different types of charts that we can use, like IFR charts and stuff. Okay, so let's keep moving. Scrolling a bit further. So what you see those? Yeah, you see those yellow markings like around cities and stuff. What do you think those yellow sections are? Let's actually move
Okay.
to the northwest. There's a blue area. Yeah. Look at that big blob of yellow. If you were flying at night, what would you think this would look
I mean,
like
it's a
in the
city,
air?
so white, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So yellow areas like this are there to show you, hey, this is what it would look like at night. It's a big,
Mm-hmm.
bright city. That's really all it is. Okay, let's keep moving south. All right, there's
I do
another
realize a
MOA.
problem now.
And yeah, scrolling a bit
It does
more.
seem like I'm landing at a military place
What's
now.
up?
So, right? Because if it's in this
Maybe.
box,
Actually, I don't know. Scroll in.
yeah,
It's definitely in a MOA, but that MOA
I see.
might be at a different altitude. So we would check the chart supplement
I see.
and explore that airfield. Because you can land at some airfields. They might say like, yeah, you just need to check in with this agency or whatever. So yeah, we just have to do a little homework before we pull the trigger on this flight. Solid, man. I appreciate you volunteering to be our first
All right.
first flight plan today. Thank you. Cool. Anybody else want to share their flight plans?
Yeah, I guess I'll share my flight plan. All right. With the Northwest craft, I use this WX Brief. Yeah, it's pretty handy. Actually, yeah, there were no. It didn't find any relevant NOTAMs at the two airfields I was at. Where were them? Yeah, closed/unsafe NOTAMs. I think that was. So, yeah, basically, yeah, I'll go over the first flight plan. The flight plan in general. So the flight plan is I depart from Payne, and I fly, yeah, about 220 nautical miles down to Sisters Eagle Airport, which is an untowered airport. And in case I can't land there, then Redmond is my alternative. And yeah, so NOTAMs, I didn't see any NOTAMs from here. So then weather. Honestly, the weather was kind of bad. There were some air meds, like for that day. I chose the 14th at 12 p.m. And there's mountain obscuration. It shouldn't be an issue because I'll be flying VFR, so I can't go into clouds anyway. But and then there's also icing warnings. Yeah, freezing level, and I think what's that? That's 15,000 feet, 150. And so, and as well as what else was there? Mountain obscuration. Yeah, so there was. I saw something else about. Okay, no, that must have been yesterday. My plan changed a bit today, but yeah. So there's some possible icing issues, but yeah. So I might choose a different day if I was going to do that, but yeah. And then known delays.
So real quick, how would icing affect our flight? If we developed icing, what would happen to us?
We would increase drag. We would have lower fuel efficiency, so like lower speed, increased drag. So we'd have to increase engine power.
How would it affect our lift?
It would decrease our lift.
Cool. Yeah, I know. Super easy question. Just want to make sure we're tracking.
No, so I mean it's not the biggest deal, but I don't want to deal with that.
So icing can get pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly.
It can easily cause some serious problems. So yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And wait, that part I'm highlighting, freezing level in 150, that's 15,000, right?
Yeah. So what it's saying is it's saying between the freezing level and 15,000 feet or flight level 150. The question is, what is the freezing level? At what point is it 0 degrees Celsius?
So it's from the surface.
And it says, yeah, for the freezing level.
So I guess that's basically the whole up to 15,000 feet at icing, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, potentially.
So yeah, that's the issue. Known delays. I didn't find any known delays in the departures. That should all be fine. And Yeah, METAR. It's a VFR flight, so yeah, it's the weather stations are reading VFR, and for instance at Payne, the weather's okay. There's a wind from 320, so on the Payne airfield. I actually have that here. So yeah, the wind's from coming from the north, so I'll go up the runway. So that would be. Honestly, I kind of forgot how the runways work, but it would be, I would take off going north, and yeah.
Yeah, we'd probably either take off 3-4 left or 3-4 right, and just take off, into the wind.
Yeah, so I guess that would be 16 left to 3-4 right. Or
Yeah, I mean, if you can swing the long runway, it's always better to have more runway than less. So.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. So yeah, I'd be taking off north, and then, and then it's VFR along the whole distance. Down by this is Bend, so this is near my location. There's wind also from the north, almost north at about 9 knots. So yeah, 10 statute mile visibility. So my landing locations and my takeoff locations should all be fine. And the weather there seems to be good. The dew point is -7, although it'll only be 1 degree Celsius. So probably no rain, but possible icing, which is
So what does the dew point mean? Do you remember?
That's the temperature where the air becomes saturated. And doesn't that mean like there's possibility for rain or fog?
Visible moisture. Yeah, fog, visible moisture, or clouds.
Okay.
Yeah, but you almost had the book definition down.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
So so probably no fog, but potential for icing because of the low temperature. And then runways. I did look in the pilot operating handbook. Actually, the first thing I did was, since I'm landing at a untowered airport that's kind of in the middle of nowhere, I wanted to check the material, and it's asphalt, I think, according to that ASPH.
Yeah, good.
So it's a hard runway, which is good. And then I don't think I didn't really calculate it because I didn't take into account the pressure altitude. I just said there's more than enough space, but I assume you would, like, the pressure is given in inches per mercury, right? And then you would convert that to pressure altitude and then do your runway calculation with that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, for the sake of this, you can go up to 1,000 feet and to give yourself a little bit of room for error, and then find the temperature, what it said, and then it's always better to overestimate your need than underestimate it.
Yeah. So I guess the air is pretty dense, so because it's cold that day. Alternatives. It's just Redmond, which is a bigger towered airport. In case for some reason I can't land, and I also made sure there was fuel at the small airport, so service fuel. Yeah, they have the aircraft fuel I need, so I can fuel up and return back if I need to. I don't want to stuck there. So that's the alternatives. So then fuel, it's the journey is about 220 nautical miles, and cruise speed is 114 nautical miles per knots. So that was calculated to be about a 2-hour flight time. Actually, I did the calculations yesterday, and the wind was against me, so it was longer. But today, it's about a 2-hour flight time, and it's 7.1 gallons of fuel per hour. So that came out to about 15 gallons for the actual flight. I don't remember if I calculated the climb time, but I did get a fuel for climbing of about 5.4 gallons. And then add one more I was going to add about 7 more gallons in case for an hour extra, which honestly is more than enough, but for a 30-minute extra time for landing. So all in all, it came out to about 25 to 27 gallons.
Nice. Cool. Sweet. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions?
All right, sure.
Cool. Let's go back to the chart. and start at the beginning of the flight.
All right.
Okay, so talk me through your radio calls or your radio steps as you've just started the plane and you're about to taxi to the runway.
Yeah.
What are your radio calls and stuff going to be?
So for pain, I would have the ground control for taxiing. So that would be those frequencies. So 121.8 and also 339.8. And then once I got on the runway, then I would switch to Pain Tower. And depending on which runway I would use either one of those frequencies.
Sure. So what would you listen to before you talk to the ground control? Did you
I
you mention ATIS at all?
Yeah, I forgot what it was called.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, ATIS is the weather, essentially. We want to figure out what the weather's doing for that hour. We're going to listen to 128.65, write down the letter that they give you. They'll be like, information Foxtrot. And then you talk to ground.
Yeah, and tell them.
You say, Pain Ground, Cessna 38 Echo.
And then you repeat the letter so they know you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, cool. What does that HS2, that little brown circle with HS2 mean? A little further north.
Here.
Right up there. What's that?
Mm-hmm. Does that mean you need permission to cross that from ground?
No, actually, that and HS1 are both hotspots. They are areas of high traffic, and you want to pay extra special attention when passing through that taxiway, so you don't trade paint or bend metal.
Okay, so is it the holds then that you need permission from ground to cross?
Yeah, there are. Yeah, the ILS. If they tell you to hold for the ILS, then you'll hold before you get to that. There's also taxiway hold markings and runway hold markings that you need to get permission from. So ground and tower will give you those permissions. Cool. Let's hop back over to Sky Vector.
All right.
Cool. So as we're departing, what class of airspace are we in on the ground right before we depart?
Is it class Bravo or is that above the ground? No, it is class Bravo, right?
Yeah, so zoom in a little bit further, like from our departure point. A little bit out. There you go. So that dashed blue circle surrounding that airfield is actually Delta. Right. Yeah, the dashed blue is Delta. And it goes up to, you see that square that says 3-1? That tells us that it's Delta up to 3,100 feet.
All right.
And then that fraction, 70/60, that tells us the Bravo starts at 6,000 feet MSL and goes up to 7,000 feet MSL. So if we were to draw it, it'd be Delta at the surface up to 3,100, and then Echo above that, and then Bravo 6,000 to 7,000 above that. So Delta, Echo, Bravo, Echo after that.
All right.
So let's continue on our flight. If we were to continue into the Bravo, let's say we're cruising at 5,000 feet, what do we need to hear before we get into that airspace?
You need permission to enter, but I forgot what that. It was something specific. I think. Do you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you are clear to enter the Bravo. The phrase Cessna Hotel Sierra Kilo Foxtrot, you are clear to enter the Bravo. And then you need to repeat it, and then you're good to go. So you need two-way radio communication. How about that magenta circle that says Mode C and ADS-B out, surrounding the entire area there? You see it? Further out? Yeah, there's a big circle, Mode C. Do you know what that's called?
No, I'm not sure.
No worries. That's the Mode C veil. So that tells us we need to have our Mode C transponder and ADS-B out anytime we're operating in that airspace. So it typically surrounds Class Bravo airports. Okay, let's keep moving south. Keep following your flight. And let's say we get past Seattle. Let's go to Portland area. We're cruising along. Yeah, so go back further north. Right here.
Yep.
Right here. If you lose, let's say weather becomes a problem, where are you going to divert to? You said your alternate is Redmond.
Yeah.
What if you can't keep going further here?
I honestly I don't really want to go to Portland because it seems a bit busy. So I think I'd try one of the a smaller runway around here. Honestly, maybe
Okay.
Jernstedt because they seem to have a weather station here. So I don't know how to research the runway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just like you did before, click on it or tap on your iPad and figure out what it is. The reason I ask is I love that you have an alternate.
Oh.
Great, good choice, good decision. But having your alternate be 2 hours out
Yeah.
might get you into it might be uncomfortable having an alternate that is so
That's
far
true.
away. My recommendation would be to have like 2 or 3 alternates on your route so that you can divert if you need to, and it's not hundreds of miles away. Cool. Let's keep looking. How about that Columbia Wilderness area that we were just looking at? Yeah, zoom in a bit more, please.
Okay. Here.
Or that works too. Trapper Creek Wilderness area. What can you tell me about that? Do you know anything about those types of airspace?
No, I'm not sure. Is it?
Yeah, so in general, they're just like wildlife preserves, and they just want you to fly 2,000
All
feet
right.
above it or more. We don't want to fly low in that airspace or in that area. And I recognize that I might be asking you things that you have no idea about. The point I'm just trying to find things
All right.
to teach here. How about that tack? There's like a white rectangle or like white lines, and it says tack. Any ideas?
No idea.
No worries. That's actually a terminal area chart. So if we were to use a paper chart, there is a paper chart that is zoomed in of that area, that rectangle there. And so if you wanted to get like more detailed information about Portland, you would look at that tack. All right, let's keep moving south.
Mountain. All
right. Any thoughts on your altitudes as you're flying through here?
Stick to about 8,000 feet because the altitude here is the absolute altitude is 5,000 feet around where I'm going, and then but my altitude above the ground would need to be significant more than 1,000, so I'd probably stick to like 8,000 ish. So
okay, yeah, we want to be careful about flying up, by Mount Hood. So remember that the Cessna is limited in its ability to climb like past 12,000 feet. So just be aware that you want to be careful over flying mountains like that. Oh, quick question for you: if you see an almond or lens-shaped cloud over Mount Hood, would that be a good time to fly over that mountain?
Would that mean there's like a lot of wind?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a lenticular cloud, and there are winds of like 50 knots or more and high turbulence when you see a lenticular cloud like that. Cool. Awesome. Let's keep moving south.
Yeah. And I get here.
All right. Right here's good. You see that blue ring just to the east of Sisha's Eagle? It's a blue ring with a bunch of arrows sticking out of it. Do you know what is that thing?
I'm not sure. Is that thing you were talking about one time that gives you like directions?
Yeah, it's a VOR station or a very high frequency omnidirectional range. See that little like
here is that the frequency? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then the Morse code is just to the right of that. And so if you wanted to use that for navigation purposes, you would tune to that, turn on your Nav1 radio, listen to the Morse code, verify that it's active, and then you can use that ring for navigational purposes.
That makes sense.
And you see the like, do you see like the blue lines like 247, 263, 295 coming out of that? Those are radials that you can ride away from that station. So let's track one of those. Going from that station on 247. Let's just follow that 247 out to the west. Yeah, keep going, keep going. And you see, it points directly to, what is this?
Yeah, I'm not
Mali
sure.
Suite,
Yeah, I
right?
see that.
Yeah, but the point is, it points directly to
Mhm.
another station. It's a
Okay.
navigational highway that we can use, and we can
Wow.
ride these highways all over the place. Anyways, love
One of
VORs. I think
those.
they're super cool. I know, I'm a nerd. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
sweet, man, awesome. I
All right,
appreciate
no problem.
you sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, anybody else have a flight plan they want to share with us? If not, that's okay. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you guys had a good time. I thought it was great that you guys shared me what you got. Next week, I haven't decided what we're going to cover. If you have any suggestions or if you want to see anything in particular, let me know. Shoot me a DM, and then I'll put something together. Otherwise, I will let you know what the topic is throughout the week. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks, Monty.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
See you guys later.
Thanks.